want to ask something what's not mentioned before, and that's the high population growth in Africa. And the question is this a blessing or a curse?
Thank you very much. The issue about African population, first, to understand that it is growing. It is not as much as that of India, which is over 1 billion. It is not as much as China, which is over 1 billion. However, the rate at which it is growing, it is a problem. It is not the number. It is actually growing faster than these other countries or subcontinents that I mentioned. And we should realize that there are many countries in Africa. So there's also disparity in the levels of growth across those countries. However, this growth, which is going to result in very large numbers in a very short time, can both be seen as a demographic dividend, which is positive, and can also be seen as a demographic trap, which is negative. So, and the question is this: in what ways is it negative? In what ways is it positive? Positive in the sense that population represents markets. You can sell your goods, you can actually trade in many things, and then you get a bit more income, all right? So on one hand, it is very good for those who are into trade, so to speak. However, when it now comes to provision of public services, delivery of public services, provision of health, provision of education, provision of food, then we start seeing the problem emerging, because you need the small, let me say, those who are younger than age 15, the percentage is very high. Therefore, and they are not working, so to speak. Theoretically, they are not working. You need to provide for them clothes, you need to provide for them shoes, you need to provide for them food, you need to school them. So in these areas, you spend so much money. So, and that is a problem for many African governments that do not have the capacity or the financial resources or the revenue to provide such public services. So in that respect, then it is a negative development.
Okay. And can you give an example where the, how can I say, the Dutch government, Dutch partners can help Africa to solve this problem?
I could say there are opportunities in the area of public service delivery. First, to see, for example, in health, okay? Health, as we know in Netherlands, there's so much belief in the health insurance systems. And then the question is this: how can we set up efficient health insurance systems in these countries with high population and less registration, such that in a way it can capture a whole base that will give at least minimum health care? So we have instances in Benin, in Togo, in Ghana, in Rwanda, where they've already set up, where the countries have already set up health insurance systems. So the government of Netherlands can step in, and actually with the already knowledge that and the practice that is already here, to see in what ways they can fuse or they can learn. The African countries can learn from this, and even for Dutch government to also see what they can also learn from delivering efficiency where there is little room for efficiency. All right, so it complements both ways, but I think in health insurance systems, Dutch government can contribute a lot.
Thank you. Today there's a lot of businesses, but I think we are looking for a more inclusive growth.
Right.
What's your idea of inclusive growth?
Yeah, inclusive growth, that is, it is very simple as it is. However, it's a way in which I think we have to include all stakeholders. For example, let me talk of productive employment, so to speak. We have companies, we have multinationals who who invest in Africa, who are sources of foreign direct investment in Africa. Now, in this situation, when they go, many see Africa as a high-risk area. Truly so. For many reasons, which I think we know. So, but when you invest in high-risk areas, then you take out your money, you get high profits, then you also leave quickly. So there's no impact on the ground. There's no inclusiveness on the ground. So what I would like to bring forward to the table is how do we then, for those that are going in, taking the so much needed foreign direct investment into Africa, in what way can they translate that to productive employment? In what way can they translate that to inclusiveness? Because part of the inclusive again is when they get to Africa, also working with local partners, local companies, and not just invest, get your money and go back. How do you use that to regenerate employment? Remember, if you regenerate employment, that is when you also have, you can get more people who are employed, then you can also have a situation where you lift people out of poverty. We want to run away from the macro side of economics, which is good. The statistics says GDP is blah, 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 which is fine. But however, for the micro, for the average person in the streets, translate the macro to their pockets. Let them feel that part so that poverty rate is reduced, and then we have, I think, improvement all the way around. And it's a win-win for us all, I think.
And I'm wondering, I don't want this to be a dream. Are there already practices of this inclusive growth in Africa? Can you give an example?
Yes, there is, though I would say indirectly. For example, when I think of the oil sector quickly comes to mind. It is a sector where you invest so much money. It is a sector that actually attracts so much direct investment. And we have two sectors in it, the upstream and the downstream sectors. So there are works, there are businesses that actually need to be divulged for local operators also. So in a way, I think in the oil sector, it is coming up little by little. We are seeing more of local companies also getting involved in this kind of businesses. Yes, that is there. Also in trading, which is good. We see that also coming up, but it's still at a very small scale. It is still at a developing stage. I will want a situation where, for trading, for instance, it is, while it is good to deal in imported products, also we should also enhance the capacity of local production. And that is the way you can also regenerate more jobs and expand the economy. It's there, but it's little for now.
But when you talk about local productions, is Europe the partner to do this? Or do we have to seek for more like inter-regional partnerships?
In fact, that's a very big thing you've mentioned, and which is often neglected. We talk of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. There is so much market, there are so much opportunities in the sub-region. People unfortunately, there is so much of trading relationships with companies from outside Africa instead of intra-regional trades. So when we talk of ECOWAS, for example, opportunities there are to make sure that the barriers to trade are removed. Then you have a bigger economy to play with within West Africa, and which is to the benefit of West Africans, so to speak. Unfortunately, we have it there in the what do you call it? In the agreements, the ECOWAS agreements. But in practice, it's very difficult. You need to travel from Nigeria to Benin Republic by road. It's supposed to be free movement of persons. Unfortunately, you get so much barriers doing that. The unfortunate one we have now is the issue of Ebola. Health situation, but it's also impacting on free movement of goods and services within the sub-region. It is an area of opportunity which we need to explore more, and which I think will be of more benefit to West Africans, for example, as a whole. We have it in East Africa, the East African community. Rwanda and Kenya, I think they are expanding more in that respect, even though they are not contiguous, but I think they are doing much more in that respect. You have the SADC in South Africa, that's also fine, but I think these are regional blocks in sub-Saharan Africa which can provide more opportunities for growth.
And can we learn from the let's say, expertise the Europe have in interregional interregional trade, because Europe has this history of open all borders, so they can, let's say, support Africa in continue to have an how can I say it, an efficient way of open up the borders.
Okay. And in very practical sense too, I agree with you. It goes beyond just having agreements. For example, the ECOWAS agreement has been in place since 1976 or 75, almost 30 years now. But then what have we been able to develop from it? So there's much to learn from Europe. For instance, even in this issue of simple, free movement, easy movement of people across borders within Europe, some are surprised when they visit and they say that you could travel by train normally from Amsterdam to Brussels without any customs barrier. You can do that in West Africa, you can do that in East Africa, and then you remove those physical restrictions. Those are things you can learn from here. It goes beyond the paper agreements.